Hello guys, I have a particularly interesting exercise for you this time, the multi-joint row. We can take a look at it over here. That's how it goes. Like so. So that is the multi-joint row. It's a very good variation especially for athletes. There's a host of different things like, for example, increased demand for stability. We're going to talk about this a little bit more later. If you don't know who I am, I'm Eero Westerberg, head coach of VAHVA Fitness. Over the years, I've helped 10,000 people to improve their physiques, how they look, how they move, how they feel, how their body performs. Something I've really dedicated a good part of my life in just learning the deeper principles of training and then sharing it onwards to you guys. Now going back to this exercise, as I explained, we have the regular row, just like this way. So usually, this is of course the variation that you should start with to get to know the muscles of your back, those muscles controlling your shoulder blades, the retraction for example, the shoulder extension, the latissimus, the trapezius and so on. But once you have that nailed down, doing it this kind of dynamic variation is really good. You know, this is something that, for example, in Warrior 20X we do this scooper, like so. Which is also a very dynamic way of doing kind of a bicep curl. But it's a little bit same principles there. It's very good for conditioning, very functional for athletes, and it utilizes, instead of just utilizing the scapula going back and the shoulder going extension, in this one when we do this big swinging, I'm utilizing more of a rolling motion from my scapula. So I'm utilizing a larger range, rotating the shoulder girdle. And on top of that, I'm utilizing more also the elbow. So in this one, I try to minimize the elbow. Here, the elbow actually pulls in here. So this is why, because the emphasis is in addition to just shoulder extension, the shoulder girdle movement, and also there's involved the elbow joint. We call it the multi-joint row. But causing that sort of dynamic motion that just goes, it really affects, you're gonna notice when you do this, especially if you do it with the barbell 20 kilos, you don't need to use heavy weights for this by the way, but every time it goes forward, it's like a pull for you to start to go with the bar. So when the bar is here, and it goes with quite a force, it tries to pull me out of my stable position. So in order for that not to happen, my muscles really need to contract. So a lot of times we think of rows in terms of, okay, I'm training my back, I'm training the pulling muscles of the back. But it's actually the whole frame, that sort of bent over frame position. It really can train very effectively the gluteal areas, the hamstring areas, and also the lower back, the erector spinae. Holding that position, I'm always fighting against that sort of distraction that I'm causing with the movements of the weights. Going here. And it has like, this also emphasizes to some extent the trapezius involvement, like I explained in the start, this shoulder blade rolling where the arm goes there. I really need to kind of catch it. It goes through a very large range, and because it's dynamic also promotes its first. It goes in this very outer range of motion of my scapula. It pulls my arm forward here like this way, and then I pull it back. So you get a really big motion coming from the shoulder blade area. I can feel, for example, when I'm doing this variation, I start to very quickly feel the upper back muscles. I can feel the middle trapezius, the upper trapezius, and even traveling all the way to the lower trapezius. The latissimus also in this one can be a little bit different, because the way we do this, for example, what I emphasize is I'm really trying to bring that bar close to my body, kind of to the upper chest area. The regular row I pull more towards my belly. In this one I pull here. So pulling like this way tight, it's more like upper back, but it also gets my elbow to travel quite far back. So that also brings a little bit more range to our row. A lot of times if I want to emphasize this part, I'm kind of pulling this way, I'm stopping here. But in this one, the arm gets here. So I get more activation in the upper back muscles to really pull everything tight and squeeze back, retracting the scapulas, moving it this way, sliding across the ribs. So I'm gonna show once again with this weight. And you don't need to stop at any point. Oof. Whew. Yeah. And like I said, the third area that is involved, in addition to the shoulder blade, is the elbow joint. So when I'm doing this motion, the muscles here also gets activated. The more you do it, the more you're gonna start to feel also the forearm muscles. So it's not something that you do necessarily for like 5 reps, not something you do for even 10 reps. You can do this for 20 reps, you can measure time, 30 seconds for example, doing this motion. Like in Warrior 20X, high intensity is always 30 seconds one exercise. And keeping like 20 kilos, most people, is probably too much, because that dynamic motion, it increases the resistance because it travels at more speed, so it places more stress on the body. And like I said, this is very hard contraction. Like when I'm doing this, my glutes, everything is like biting really hard to keep my body stable, keep my back straight, keep my entire body, keep the composure, not to get pulled away with the weight. So light weights, you can start 5 kilo, 10 kilo, 15, perhaps up to 20, but not very high. Use the dynamic motion, use a high volume, high time under tension. That's how you really start to get those benefits from these kind of exercises. See, it's never the exercises themselves. You know, I can give you 1,000 exercises, other people can give you this and this and this and that, different type of exercises, like endless amounts. But if you don't have any methodology to actually use this exercise properly, you're probably not going to get the best possible results. So approaching this with a more refined methodology, this is what I always do with exercises like this, for example. Getting started with this kind of more refined methodology can be difficult if you're just starting out, but we have gathered something that's really going to help you if you want to learn more deeply about training. We have gathered together 10 different commandments. These are essentially 10 laws about the universal strength training. So I'm talking about different aspects that affect the results that we can get from strength training. And this is universal, so it affects every training. Like whether it's this type of training, body weight training, weight training. You can also apply it to the martial arts, dance, sports, and so on. This really affects everything. We're always looking at things that are behind, are kind of beyond the universal principles. Once you get those really nailed down, that's when you really get freedom into your training. That's when you really start to understand better what you're doing. By understanding better what you're doing, you gain a lot more freedom, and you start to find a lot more options to actually train your body, such as this kind of exercises. Try this out, see how you feel about it. Do you feel that engagement that I'm talking about here? How do you feel it in your body? That's always the most important thing, not what I'm saying here, but how you feel this exercise once you go and you actually try them. So enjoy and take care and stay strong.